Hello, my name's Elaine, and this morning we're here with Ty Heembrock at Anything Grows in Cochrane. Good morning, Ty.
Good morning, how are you?
Not too bad, thanks. It's been a challenging year so far. I'm wondering if you've noticed any new trends in the garden center.
Definitely. So we've seen a huge increase in just new gardeners in general. So which is always exciting. Lots of new faces and people getting excited about it, which is good. But I'd say the biggest trend that we've seen this year is the fruit and food production. Everyone is growing vegetables. Everyone is trying to do everything from seed. They want to grow tomatoes. They want to grow peppers. Just kind of build a more sustainable backyard home garden.
That's really cool. It's nice to see people getting excited about growing their own things again.
Absolutely.
Now, you are recent to the manager role here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if you have any new ideas to move the garden center forwards.
So one of the things that we're definitely looking to do now is if people have been following us, they've probably noticed that we've moved online. So we're doing a lot more online shopping and kind of just trying to connect with the community in a more of a digital sort of a way. Platforms like Facebook and Instagram. We're going to be getting into YouTube and stuff like that, just doing more garden resources and just trying to put information out there that's relevant to our locale here in Cochrane and kind of the western side of the city, just so that new gardeners have the resources and stuff that they need so that they can have successful gardens.
Now, this year's getting plants and products in this year just because of the pandemic, but was there anything new that came in that really had you excited?
So this year, the biggest difference for us for the kind of summer season was we had tropical plants in here. We've kind of rearranged our space so we can offer tropical plants year-round now. And this was the first summer season that we've actually had them in the greenhouse. And everybody was really excited to kind of see the different foliage, different textures, and finding ways to incorporate them into their outdoor gardens as well. Plus this year, really with our perennials and stuff like that, we brought in a ton of new varieties. Again, stuff that is hardy and zoned for this area, but just stuff that people haven't seen here before. So there's been a lot of really well-received feedback, and we'll definitely be looking to kind of improve that and expand that in the future.
That's really cool. Now, I've gardened and lived here for many years, and I know it can be a real challenge to grow a variety of plants here. So do you have some advice for new gardeners to the area?
So I'd say the biggest thing is making sure that you choose your plant for the specific location that you're trying to plant it. I think we might have talked about correct zones and stuff like that before, but it's not only choosing the right zoned plants, but also looking at the space you're looking to plant something, monitoring kind of the sunlight, exposure, wetness, dryness, those types of things, and then choosing a plant that actually fits that sort of location that you're looking to put it.
You've got a great selection of new succulents and some great cacti. You mentioned that you have some new suppliers.
Yeah, so we've kind of sourced a few new suppliers for kind of the tropical market, and a couple that we have, they import product out of California, and so we've got a great selection now of really unique cactus and get into things like agaves and aloes and really unique succulents and just different types of stuff that you don't really see everywhere.
Well, I've noticed you've got lots of hanging plants here, ones that will drape naturally, but you've also got a great selection of monstrose plants.
Yes, they're very cool. The kids definitely love them because they do look like, the supplier refers to them as monster cactus. And we definitely think they kind of look like that too, so yeah. Very, very cool.
Mutations, but ugly but gorgeous at the same time.
Yeah, the colors are really fantastic.
And that's the great thing about succulents is they really, it's not about their flowers so much, it's about all the unique shapes and the textures. And so you could put together succulent bowls right now that are absolutely gorgeous, and they do well when you bring them inside as well. Yeah,
they can definitely be out for the summer, and then you can bring them back in the house and enjoy them all winter as well.
Yeah.
Fat Cederas, very, very cool, ivy trees.
Yeah, it's a hybrid between ivy and fatsia. And so it can grow like a fatsia shrub, but it can also be encouraged to vine. And I know I got one here a couple weeks ago and it's already doubled in size. So I'm quite pumped about it.
Yes, I've noticed mine that I have is growing very, very quick as well. Yeah, the giant fiddly figs. Definitely one of the more popular indoor plants right now. Lots of people are after these guys.
Figs do really well, and actually we can grow hardy figs in our area. They do need to be brought in for the winter. They don't tolerate our really, really cold winters, but they tolerate a cold garage quite well, and you can actually get edible figs.
So really good options for, so again, in our climate here, it's very hot, very dry. It's almost desert-like sometimes we feel, but things like the grasses do really, really well. You've probably seen the tall Carl Forester grasses around, very popular. You get height, they have nice flow in the wind and stuff like that, but they're super hardy and they tolerate our really, really dry conditions very well.
You know, a lot of us have trees. And what do you plant under your trees? Well, there's a tremendous variety of hostas that will do really well under your trees. Not necessarily underneath the spruce tree, but a lot of on the periphery of the edges or underneath the deciduous trees. And there's so many different varieties out there. They can add all sorts of color and lighten up an area. So there's one really for every situation.
Definitely, and the really fun thing about hostas is they are one of the earlier ones to come up in the springtime. So you'll notice growth happening and leaves that are out and color and texture early on in the season. So it really helps you get that sort of excitement for spring to come.
Mm-hmm. They do flower, but I just like the leaves.
I do too.
Now this one is really cool. It's got a long, narrow leaf in the back there. And you know, you can see how different that is from something that's got a big fat leaf. So this is a new plant here. We haven't seen a lot of it. This actually is Piet Oudolf. He's a very famous Dutch garden designer, and he's all about right plant, right place, but how do plants look when they're dying as well as when they're growing? And this makes a lovely mound for sun, tolerates moist or dry soil. And then we've got iris. Iris are great, especially for rocky, grainy soil. Iris are wonderful because they really don't like to get their feet wet.
One underrated plant that I find that does really well around here is all the shrub roses, especially the smaller dwarf varieties like the Mordens and things like that. Prolific bloomers all season long, hardy, they come back. They can handle not wet locations, but they can definitely handle the rain that we get, as well as when it stops raining and it's very, very dry. For people that have wet spots in the garden, things like willow do really well, especially if you have standing water. Mm-hmm. Birch trees, there's dwarf shrub form birch that also do really well.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful ones is the heritage river birch. It really is a beautiful tree, and it's native here.
Yeah, the river birch are really nice. Another really underused, underplanted species for sure.
You can't really go wrong with lilacs.
Nope, lilacs are always tried and true. Many, many different colors, different sizes, heights, spreads. So there's pretty much a lilac for every spot in the garden.
Pretty much, yeah. Now I notice here you've got cherries. And these are the Romance series of cherries. And
yes.
They are super hardy. And boy, once they hit their stride, you can be picking bushels of cherries.
One mistake people make all the time is they confuse cedars for junipers or the other way. If you're looking for that upright columnar evergreen, columnar juniper is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, and there's some interesting, you know, the cedars, they look nice for the first little bit, but they really don't like our Chinooks.
No.
But there's others that are really interesting, you know, like the bristlecone pine here. A little bit slow growing, but it has really interesting shape, a different needle type, and it doesn't get to be a massive tree. Like, you know, a lot of spruces become really, really large. So these fit into smaller yards. Lots of dwarf varieties too.
Yep, and that's where like we've moved into things like the Montgomery spruce. They're more of kind of a fat, shorter spruce tree. So it's kind of fills up the space and kind of gives the definition of the yard.
And it was same with the mugos. You have to be careful with mugos because they do say dwarf, but dwarf is relative to its big brothers. So there are some that really do stay small, but they're so hardy here, and you know the birds love them. And as they get older, you can prune them up a little bit into kind of bonsai shapes. Funny
thing about hydrangeas is people always say that they're excellent for super shaded locations, and as much as they tolerate shade, we've definitely found that they need more sunlight than they generally lead on to let you believe.
Yeah, there's all sorts of new varieties out there, from proven winners especially. They've been breeding them like crazy. But the trick is, they like sun, but they really like consistent moisture.
Yeah.
And if you can give them that, they're absolutely spectacular. They'll bloom their hearts out for you.
One other really, really hardy plant is honeyberry or haskcaps. They're in the Lonicera family, so very similar to honeysuckles and things like that, but they do get really nice, very delicious little blue berries on them. but these guys are super, super hardy.
They are, and actually they're one of the first things to bloom in the spring. Their buds, flower buds, are actually hardy to -7. So they bloom really early, and they ripen really early too,
Yes.
which is awesome. Again, you got to fight the birds.
Yes. I find they have a little bit of a raspberry sort of a flavor, kind of that tart,
Yeah,
but still very good and huge, huge producers.
and they're calling this the prairie blueberry.
The prairie
'Cause-
blueberry, I like that.
Blueberries are so hard to grow here, whereas these guys just love it. And they actually like to be flooded in the spring. So if you have an area where water accumulates in the spring, they love it. Now, there's a lot of growing season left. So there's lots of opportunity to still plant trees and shrubs and some perennials. What recommendations would you give people to help them settle in really well before winter hits?
So definitely, just how you mentioned, the bedrock. If it's not bedrock around here, it's just solid clay. One of the biggest things that we recommend is when you're digging your hole, make sure you dig a nice big hole, not too deep, but definitely wider, so you can add nice fresh soil in there, give the roots a place to go. And then the next biggest thing around here at this time of the year for sure is water. We're in our hottest months of the year, July, August, September. Plants are really drying out quickly. They definitely need water, probably daily water, just to make sure that root stays saturated so that they have a good chance going into the fall. And mulching is a huge beneficial thing, right? It helps keep the moisture in the soil, keeps the roots cool, just keeps that soil more regulated in the ground there so that the plant doesn't have any stresses and has a really good chance to establish for the fall.
Yeah, like us, we'd like to be dabbling our toes in the pools right now.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Ty. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Elaine.